Hey folks, Cup of Thumb here, and in today's tutorial I'm going to show you how to make this incredible spinning fidget clicker. Yes, it is amazing and it uses some tension and some amazing techniques that I use in my cryptexes, live counter dials, and loads of other things. So learning the techniques from this will allow you to make some pretty cool stuff. And of course, it has a very satisfying click. So without further ado, let's dive right in. Hey folks, okay, let's start as we always do. Say hello to our old friend the default cube before hitting X and deleting our old friend the default cube. What I do want to do is hit Shift A to bring up the add menu, and then we're going to bring in a plane. Wonderful, look at that. Now, in the little add plane menu down here in the bottom left, let's open that up and let's make this 6 centimeters because 2 centimeters is an insanely large fidget clicker and we don't need it to be quite that big. So once it's this size, what I'm going to do is also scale it on the Y just a little bit so it's more of a rectangular shape. Wonderful. And then I'm going to go into edit mode by hitting Shift, and let's extrude it on the Z just a little bit to give it a little bit of depth there. Great, great, great. Cool. I'm just going to take a look there. Oop. It extruded a bit weird. There we go. Lovely. Okay, cool. Now that we have that, when we hit Tab to go into object mode and then hit Control A to apply the rotation and scale. That way it knows we've, modeled with the dimensions a little bit. So when we add a bevel, which I'm going to do right now, it's going to apply the bevel evenly. So we can grab this edge, hold Shift, grab this edge, hold Shift, grab this edge, hold Shift and grab this edge. And I essentially want to create more of a pill shape because I think that will be more visually appealing. So as you see here, I bevel, it has one bevel there, but if I scroll the mouse wheel, I can increase the amount. So I'm just going to increase it to about, I don't know, maybe 8. There we go. And that looks kind of a neat rounded corners there. Looking good. Okay, cool. Now, I also want to have like a neat edge running along here, and then our spring mechanism is going to go here, like our clicker mechanism. So let's do that by grabbing this face in edit mode, insetting a face by hitting I. Wonderful. I think about there. Looks great. Awesome. And then I'm going to hit Control R. I'm going to add a loop cut there. I'm going to hit Control R. Oops. That one shifted. Control R and add a loop cut there. You'll notice there that I double clicked. If I come out of that again and I add a loop cut, Control R, you'll see when I click, I can slide it around, but I don't want it. I want it dead in the middle. So if I hit escape now, it'll add it right in the middle there. Perfect. Cool. Now let's bring up this bottom edge, which will work just to be more visually appealing and give us a platform for our spring mechanism to attach to. So I'm going to hit 3. I'm going to hit this edge, then holding Control, I'm going to work my way around this bottom edge here. And when I hold Control, when I highlight them, it will essentially create the quickest, it'll highlight all the faces in the quickest path to reach that same face that I've clicked on. And that looks great. Okay, cool. Now let's extrude this up like so. Looking great. And that is the beginnings of our base plate. Next, let's add in our dial, our actual spinning, clicking dial. Okay, let's add a dial to this. So go into object mode, and now we're going to hit Shift A, and we're going to add in a cylinder. Now it's going to come in massive. It has 32 vertices. That's perfectly fine. And let's scale this right down to about there. I think that looks good. And then I'm going to grab this on the x-axis and just bring it up to about here. Okay, looking cool, looking cool. We can shift this around. Essentially, this is going to be the pin on which our clicking wheel spins around. So I'm going to scale this on the Z, and then I'm going to grab it on the Z as well, just so it's like sticking out just a little bit like that. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Okay, cool. Now, if I go into if I click off here and I press 1 on the numpad, I am going to bring this down just so it's level with the border that I have sticking up. Cool. Looking great. And it's buried in there. Wonderful. Now, if I go into edit mode, I'm going to hit Control R to create a loop cut on this gear. I'm going to bring it till it's just above the surface there. And then I'm going to hit 3, grab this face, and if I hit Alt and go towards the most right-hand side line and then click, it's going to grab all the faces all around there, which is perfect. Because what I can do now is I can hit Shift D and duplicate that. You see, I've duplicated it. If I hit Exit, and this can be the makings of that gear. So I'm going to scale this, hold Shift and Z to say scale it, but not on the Z axis. And I'm going to move it just a tiny bit. So it's just scaled a teeny bit. There we go. A teeny bit around our core. Wonderful. Now what I can do is I can extrude this, not on the Z, and scale it. Wonderful. And let's put it right up to, essentially, let's put it like right here. That looks awesome. Cool, cool, cool. Then with all those faces still selected, let's subdivide them. Excellent. Now, the reason I wanted to subdivide them is because with edge select mode, I want to grab all of these, and I can do that by hitting Shift, holding Shift, and just going around and selecting them all. Boom, 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 boom. I know. We love a tedious task, but what you could do if you wanted to save some time, you could cut this gear in half and then only have to do half the work and then apply a mirror modifier. If you've seen my other tutorials, you know how to do that. But honestly, this isn't the hardest thing in the world to just run around. You could also go into the mesh menu or the edge menu, sorry, and go and hit select similar. But you know, by the time we've done that, I'm already finished up. And I don't know, I'm feeling there's something therapeutic about doing this over and over again. Is that the definition of insanity? I can't remember. But regardless, you know, and there it's done. Well, that took like 30 seconds. Cool. Now with those edges selected, what I can do is I can hit scale, hold Shift and Z to say do not scale this on the Z axis, and then I can move them out like so. Wonderful. That looks great. Now, again, hit Control B to bevel them. And then look at this. We can add a nice soft edge on them. That is great. It looks like a beautiful flower right now. Cool. And there you have it. That has added a neat edge. Wonderful. And that means we can now spin this around the central core. And the last thing to do is add a little springy clicker mechanism. So this thing will actually, you know, will click every time we spin it 32 times in a circle. All right, let's do that right now. All right, folks, let's make the clicking mechanism that our dial can click on when it moves around. And we can essentially do that by making a very small tension spring. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to hit Control R and I'm going to add a loop cut all the way around the middle, and I'm going to bring this right down to about there. The reason being is the tension spring is going to come out from here, and when it 3D prints, I want it to be raised up just a little bit so it's not going to stick and adhere to this bottom plate. Now, the way we can do this is if we just hit 3 and grab this face here, we essentially can extrude this all the way out and then basically divide it up into the sections we need to create that spring. So yeah, let's do that right now. So if I extrude it out to about here, I want this to be the first part of my spring. So I'm going to extrude that out here like so. Then I'm going to extrude it out again, like, let's see, like, yeah, I mean there, and then like there. Actually, that doesn't make any sense. Extrude it all the way up so it's like touching into the gears. Cool. Now I am going to cut this into 3 pieces, boop, like so. And then if we just look at the shape of this, what I'm essentially going to do is create something by cutting out faces I don't need that is essentially this shape. That way it has a little bit of a bend in it. However, I'm going to come all the way across and then we're going to create a little Z here. Does that make sense? We'd have this basically this bendy stick that will fit into that groove. And then every time we click it, it will snap back into place and make a nice satisfying click sound. So the first thing we need to do is remove the faces we don't need. So with Shift, we can get rid of these faces, still holding Shift, this face, all the ones we can see basically. Looking good. And these ones and these ones. And I know I'm getting all the ones from the middle, but don't worry, I'll explain that in a second. So delete those faces. Great. And now these faces, these, whoops, not that one. And these faces and these faces. So boom, delete all those. And then this bottom one here as well. Cool. So now we have this shape and we have this little nub up here. So now we can start rebuilding that back together. So let's start with the bottom part. Grab this face here and just keep hitting F and it's going to fill in all of those gaps. Perfect. And then here we're going to hit it 1, 2. Great. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add that edge and hit F. Over on this side, same thing, that edge, hit F. Great. So now we have this stick and we have this box. What I can do now to give it a little bit of curvature is I'm going to grab that, hold Shift, hit there, add a face there. Awesome. Now if I grab that edge and I hit F, 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 it's going to create the faces and now we have this Z stick. Perfect. Now this would work, however, it might fail over time because of these straight edges. There's no flexibility and no bend with a straight edge. So these points here become points of failure where it could snap over time. Now we can reduce that by adding some curves to it, so it will have a natural bend to it, like you would see on a regular spring. So how do we do that? Well, you've already used the tool a bunch of times. We can do it using bevels. So grab that edge, that edge, that edge, that edge, and then if we hit Control B, add in a bevel, and look at that. If I bring it right in like so, and now we have, you can kind of see there, this nice curve that is going to bend so much nicer. And then the last thing we have to do is do the same thing on the top nub. So with edge select 2, we can grab that, that edge and that edge. Don't worry if you can't see it. If you click in the right direction, you can do it, or you could always hide the gear if you needed to have a better view. But there you go. And then I'm going to hit Control B, add a bevel. I'm going to add a nice little rounded edge there. This way it just creates less friction as it's sliding in and out of those gear spots. But that is essentially it. Last thing to do is to add in a little keyring section here and a pin here to hold the gear in, and then we are done. Let's do that right now. All right, folks, last part and easy part is we're going to add a little pin in here. And to do that, we are going to grab this middle section. It's actually all still part of the same gear. So what we can do is in edit mode, hit 3, grab that middle part, hit L to grab all of the linked parts, and then hit P and separate by selection. Sweet. Now, what we can do is if you click on that middle part, let's just have that as, and rename it to pin. Now, with the pin selected, go into edit mode, 3 into face select mode, and then I want to inset a face like so, and then extrude it down just a little bit, like so. Awesome. That way we have something that we can push in another pin to hold this gear in place. So with the bottom selected, hit Alt, and then let's grab all of these edges. Whoops. So 3, and then Control Alt to grab, or Shift Alt, sorry. There we go. There we go. Control, boom. Okay. To grab all those middle pins, and then hit Shift D to duplicate this up on the Z axis. Great. and then hit 2, grab that edge, hit Alt to grab all those edges, and then let's extrude, hit E to extrude, and then S to scale, and then bring this out like so. Extrude it on the Z-axis, like so. Boom, and then hit F to create a face. And this will essentially be the pin that will fit in and hold our wheel in place. Now, we can also, there's still the same part again. So a way to separate parts again is click on any part that you want to separate, hit L, which will grab all of the linked parts of that model, and then hit P to separate by part. And now we have our pin, our top pin and our bottom pin. Now, right now, that bottom pin is separate from our model. I'm just going to hide the gear for a second. It's literally just 2 separate pieces. So we actually need this to be part of this model. So what I'm going to do is, with this model attached, go into my modifiers, add modifier, generate Boolean. If you've done my tutorials, you've done this a million times. Change it to union, and then click on the pin. And now if I hide the pin, you'll see that it's still there and it's part of the model. Wonderful. And then the very last thing we need to do is just grab these faces here. So 3, face select. I'm just going to extrude them out. Great. And then same as we've done a million times now in this tutorial, let's grab these edges. Sorry. Those edges. Boop, boop, boop. And hit Control B. Bevel them to make a nice round there. Great. And then we can cut a circle in them by going Shift A, Mesh, Cylinder, scale it right down so it's very, very small. Grab it on the X to bring it down into the middle. Again, scale it right down. And then let's scale on the Z so it's long. And essentially use that cylinder to place it where you need. And we're going to use that cylinder to cut a hole using the Boolean modifier again. So again, what we can do is, with this one selected, add another Boolean, and this time have difference selected, and grab that cylinder we just made. And then when you hide it, there we go, a place for the keychain. And that is essentially it. Now all we need to do is print all these pieces, see how they come out, put it all together, and let's hear that satisfying click. And there it is, folks, fresh off the printer. Doesn't that thing look nice? I also added a little keyring attachment to the bottom there. I just got that online. I bought them like a pack of 100 for maybe $5 or so. But yeah, it looks beautiful. The little clicky dial mechanism is working. We have this lovely spinning dial. You can print this in whatever colors you want. And of course, this sounds fantastic. So if you've enjoyed this video and the techniques taught today, please check out my other tutorials and like, subscribe, ring that bell, do all the good stuff. It helps me out so much. But that's everything, folks. I've been Copper Thumb. You've been awesome. I'll see you in the next one.